Okay, Year 9, welcome to our second lesson of the summer term. And here's a little bit of retrieval and skills practice of mice and men. I seen things out here. I wasn't drunk. I didn't know if I was asleep. If some guy was with me, he could tell me I was asleep. This is Crooks, and I want you to perform a close word analysis on this quote from Crooks in Of Mice and Men that shows how it supports the theme of loneliness. I don't know how you've got on with that, but I would have looked at the word asleep, which is repeated. Asleep has connotations of unconsciousness. Crooks is so lonely that he doesn't even know if he's awake or asleep, if he's conscious or unconscious. He's kind of drifting into mental illness there. So that would be my close word analysis on that. And now I want you to put analysis out of your mind for the rest of the lesson, because we're doing evaluation and comparison. We're practicing those two skills. Right, our learning objective today is to establish ways of answering an evaluation and comparison question, which is question 4. So the title, therefore, is Answering Question 4, Evaluation and Comparison. Move on to the next slide when you're ready. Well, here's 3 that I came up with. I'm sure you come up with loads. I'm sure some of you have come up with sort of 8 or 9. But these are mine. Whereas, on the other hand, and as well as. So keep these connectives in mind. We're going to be using them as we go through the lesson. The Road by Cormac McCarthy. Now, we've looked at this bit of text already, but we'll look at it again, which is much the way it works in the GCSEs. You go over and over the same text and you become very familiar with them. I shall read it then, and then we'll move forward after that. When he woke in the woods in the dark and the cold of the night, he'd reach out to touch the child sleeping beside him. Nights beyond darkness and the days more grey each one than what had gone before, like the onset of some cold glaucoma dimming away the world. His hands rose and fell softly with each precious breath. He pushed away the plastic tarpaulin and raised himself in the stinking robes and blankets and looked toward the east for any light, but there was none. In the dream from which he'd wakened, he had wandered in a cave where the child led him by the hand, their light playing over the wet flowstone walls, like pilgrims in a fable swallowed up and lost among the inward parts of some granitic beast. Deep stone flues where the water dripped and sang, tolling in the silence the minutes of the earth and the hours and the days of it and the years without cease, until they stood in a great stone room where lay a black and ancient lake, and on the far shore a creature that raised its dripping mouth from the brimstone pool and stared into the light with eyes dead white and sightless as the eggs of spiders. It swung its head low over the water as if to take the scent of what it could not see. Crouching there pale and naked and translucent, its alabaster bones cast up in shadow on the rocks behind it, its bowels, its beating heart, the brain that pulsed in a dull glass bell. It swung its head from side to side and then gave out a low moan and turned and lurched away and loped soundlessly into the dark. And here's the question. The man's dream is deeply depressing and suggests there is no hope. How far do you agree with this statement? Now, before we start putting our answer together, I want you to find 2 pieces of evidence that show you agree with the statement and 1 that shows you disagree. Okay? That shouldn't take you more than 10 minutes. That'll take you 10 minutes. Now, this text is weighted very much on the there is no hope side of things, but there is hope in here, as I said, and it relates to his son. And I picked out each precious breath. You know, obviously he values his son's life. That's the whole reason why he's carrying on. Therefore, there is hope. And then down here, and the years and the days of it, and the years without cease. Sorry, and the hours and the days of it, and the years without cease. Is a tricolon that just shows life going on and on into the future in this terrible grey world and nothing changing. So there's my 1 piece of evidence showing that there is hope, and 1 piece of evidence showing that there isn't hope. And I can't emphasize this often enough. We're doing a comparison and an evaluation, not any type of analysis. Here's the process. Start by stating how far you agree with the statement, i.e. I mostly agree or disagree with the statement. Secondly, you need 4 quotations from the text. Ideally, these include an even split between the quotations, which increase and decrease your agreement. They don't have to be evenly split though. Some texts are so heavily weighted in one direction that you can only partially do that, but you do need a split. 3, you need to include terminology when explaining how each quote you include affects how far you agree or disagree with the statement. As I said before, don't analyse, no close word analysis. Terminology simply is word classes, similes, metaphors, all that type of thing. 4, use comparative connectives. It would be impossible to do a comparison without them, so use those to move between the evidence. And at the end of every paragraph, link back to the question. Okay, so here's the statement again, which we're going to be evaluating. The man's dream is deeply depressing and suggests there is no hope. How far do you agree with this statement? As I say there, underneath I've modelled a paragraph that has an opening evaluation, compares using connected, uses evidence, uses terminology, and links back to the question. You would write 4 of these. So I partially agree with this statement. There's your evaluation. While the text is overwhelmingly depressing, there are glimmers of hope. When the writer describes his hand as falling, rising and falling with each precious breath, there's your evidence for hope. We can see that the hope he has is derived from his son. However, there's the comparative connective, the tricolon, there's the terminology. The hours and the days and the years without end shows that he probably has no hope for the future outside of his relationship with his son. This is why I only partially agree with the statement, and I've linked back to the question with an evaluation at the end of the paragraph. Right, Year 9, now it's over to you. The man's dream is deeply depressing and suggests there is no hope. How far do you agree with this statement? I'd like you to write me 3 paragraphs in the way that I've shown you, and I would really like to see them. If you send them to me, I will evaluate them, and I will give achievement points where appropriate, which I'm sure if you feel confident enough to send it to me, it'll be appropriate that I should give you an achievement point. So yes, it'd be lovely to see some of your work. Take care, and I will see you tomorrow. Thank you.